Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. One of the largest franchises of all time nowadays is Call of Duty. No matter how you feel about the franchise, it is highly popular and each entry still garners many players. It's hard to think of a time when the franchise wasn't the juggernaut that it is today. Yet the original Xbox had one of its earliest entries with Call of Duty Finest Hour. I played through this one recently, so let me give you some history and my feelings about it. All footage was captured from an original Xbox, and I want to thank my YouTube channel members for their support, and be sure to check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for more non-Xbox retro content. And let's go ahead and hop into the history of this one.
Do not count days! Do not count months! Count only the number of Germans you have killed! Kill the German! This is your mother's prayer! Kill the German! This is the cry of your Russian earth! Do not waver! Do not let up! Kill! Death to the German invader!
In 2003, the PC got a new Infinity Ward game called Call of Duty, a game that was proposed to tackle the then very popular Medal of Honor franchise. The reaction to this World War II shooter was monumental, with a 91 on Metacritic. It sold well, and soon would be pushed into being a franchise by the game's publisher, Activision. They wanted to bring Call of Duty to consoles, but they would do it in their style, making a Call of Duty entry built for consoles with new missions and controls built for the controller. This is where Finest Hour developer Spark Unlimited enters. Spark Entertainment was a team of developers who had previously worked on Medal of Honor games, but when the deal was made for Spark to start work on a console Call of Duty, many had not even left their jobs at EA yet. Many wanted confirmation that they had a job, and once they did, they quit EA. And this led to a massive lawsuit from EA, who alleged Spark stole a ton of data from them. This case was settled, but it had a long-lasting impacts and led to a tumultuous future. See, if you look, they got a 3-game deal from Activision in 2003, but don't ask yourself what those 3 games were yet, because they may have never gotten them. Work went forward, and Sparks started showing off the game, talking about how this was a new vision for Call of Duty. Call of Duty was building up to be a larger franchise if this game was successful. And unfortunately, building this game for Xbox, PS2, and GameCube was going too slow for Activision. And through their disappointment, they hired people to step in and help the team. Kuju would come in and help out on the PS2 and Xbox versions, and Exact would port the GameCube version. This led to more bad blood between Activision and the developer, which we will see more of later. Through all of this, Call of Duty Finest Hour would finally release on November 16th, 2004 in North America, and make European and Australian releases over the next few months. I personally have never played this game before, so this is an all-new experience for me. I played through it recently, and let me tell you how I felt about it, starting with the plot.
We'll have to get in and out before everything becomes all spotlights, sirens, and rifles firing. Cock your guns, wet your sights, and ride on. Let's go!
Finest Hour is a World War II game, a type of game that was huge at this point in time. You play across 3 fronts in this one, playing as Russians on the Eastern Front, the British on the North African Front, and Americans on the Western Front. We have seen all of these fronts in games before at this point, but there's something about the African front I do love to see. The Russian front is nice, but it's the European front that's shown the most in this game. Yet the bright desert sands with a different style of architecture makes for something that stands out for one of these titles. And it wouldn't be the last time Call of Duty would do this either. Unfortunately, the African front is the smallest campaign of the 3, with the others feeling larger in scale and full of different characters. This one is right in the middle of both of them, and it's over in a blink of an eye. To be fair, none of the plots are too gripping, but they're well handled, asking you to move through different important battles, and has a nice through line towards winning the war. I think the best plot is the Russian one that has you following a flow of characters, from a few soldiers to a lady sniper, and then a group running tanks. It does a good job of showcasing different styles of action. It's all interconnected with some documentary footage looking like a classic war documentary, which I always like to see. This adds authenticity to the plotline, and it's a nice introduction to certain plot elements, and it makes it feel grand. such as the introduction of the tank squadron on the Western Front. There is nice elements all around to make this plot solid. Call of Duty started as a first-person shooter, as it still is today. It took a genre that was very popular, updated a few things, and soon became a cutting-edge franchise for a short time. It does a few fresher things for the time, especially on console, that helps it settle in as something different. Gunplay, as far as controls go, work well enough here. The movement of your character is fine, but the actual movement of your gun is a bit off. I personally found that it was either too slow or too fast. In the menus, you could switch up your sensitivity, and there's not a lot of nuance to it. It felt like the slower one was a bit better, but it was really tough to settle into with only a slow and fast method. Shooting does feel good though. In playing shooters on the Xbox, it's always interesting to play the later shooters that have you actually aiming down your sights of every weapon. Holding down the left trigger, you aim and shoot with the right trigger. It's easy and feels great to use. It takes the shooting and makes it feel a lot more visceral because it's in your face. It allows you to run the cover and crouch and peek around, which feels solid. However, I'm not going to say it's game-changing yet. Hipfire here is just as accurate, and in this game with mostly close combat situations, I think hipfire works better and faster. There really isn't recoil, and if there is, it's very slim, so just aim from the hip and you'll be good to go. It's not really a negative, it's just an interesting part of the game. One odd choice is to put the reload and pickup buttons on the white and black buttons. Once again, it's not bad, it just feels a little odd. You do have other control schemes, but the movement is messed around with too much, and I feel like the base control scheme is what will work best for people with more modern sensibilities for controls. It works well though because the general setup for attacks is excellent. It's a lot of you running around linear levels, killing enemies, and longtime viewers will know I have a soft spot for shooters, so when you get the controls down solid enough and the environments are well enough designed, it can be mindless fun. And you get that here. The enemy AI is a little dumb, but they are serviceable. You end up aiming, shooting, and moving in tight corridors and giant courtyards. There's always action, and it never was tiring. I think the aspect that helped this a lot was that there was a lot of variety in missions. There is a surprising amount of tank missions here. In these war games, I feel like vehicular missions only dot the game a little, but here I'd say half the game is either you in the tank or you protecting them. I actually quite enjoyed the tank missions. They're tough and they throw many enemies at you, but the first-person view and tank controls work well, and I think it does add a little more to the experience, giving you more of that war as hell feeling. The tank escort missions are a little different and not as enjoyable. There's certain missions that ask you to protect things for a certain amount of time, and one particularly bad example was one where you have to defend a tank for 10 minutes with no checkpoints in that time period. If you fail anywhere in those 10 minutes, you're redoing the whole protection, and this is not good game difficulty design and is just tedious. Luckily, the tank driving is there more than these survival missions, so it doesn't bog down the game enough to make the whole thing tedious. I also feel like the health pack system over recharging health isn't interesting to bring up here, since that would leave the series very soon. It does make this game so much tougher with its limited checkpoints and with only health pickups, but health pickups are everywhere in this game, and it's a different way to play Call of Duty, and I appreciate that. I think overall this is a fun, basic shooter. It has some minor gameplay issues that stop it from being the best of shooters on the console, but it's good gameplay-wise, and it's very entertaining. Upon its release, Finest Hour did support Xbox Live, and is now supported by Insignia, the Xbox Live replacement service. I hopped on stream and played a bunch with you guys, and we got some crazy full lobbies, so thank you to everyone who played and watched. I really appreciate you. It is funny playing such a classic Call of Duty and thinking about how much simpler it is compared to the online juggernaut that is Call of Duty today. This is a fairly simple online shooter for the time. You pick and select a few stock World War II weapons, drop it to a battlefield, and you shoot other people online. Just repeat that. It's simple, free-for-all, deathmatches, team deathmatches, capture the flag, and search and destroy, which is just you planting bombs. There's a limited amount of maps as well. It's fun, but I'd play other war shooters of the era before this one. The funky sensitivity doesn't help, and I'd say online, it's more noticeable that it's either too fast or too slow, leading to some rough gunfights. Also, some maps are a little too tiny, and then there's others that are way too open. It's never quite balanced well, but it's just there to get killing going. There's nothing like getting into a group with such a simple multiplayer game and just having fun. You know everybody getting into it won't have a hard time understanding, and you can just go around and shoot. It's not going to be something that you're just going to keep coming back to online, but it's good for a quick session. Call of Duty Online does get much better from here. Presentation-wise, Finest Hour looks fantastic on the Xbox, running at 480p widescreen, with your view of the battlefield being impeccable. Once you get into the view of the environments, it's some solid vistas. As stated earlier, the desert has some of the best and most unique visuals of the game. I like the emptier aesthetics and the fact that it's not as destroyed. The lighting here is well done too, with a nice dusk setting in the very first mission. That isn't to say that the environments all around aren't bad, because I think the destroyed cities are really nice too. Full of dilapidated buildings and structures, and all of the snow evokes those World War II feelings you see often in these games. As far as characters and elements like that go, I don't think it's as good looking. Not that it's bad, but it's not really a standout. I don't think the visuals don't ever necessarily take a step back, especially considering the size of it. Especially in the tank levels, there's a great sense of scope in the size of everything, and that's awesome. I do wish the actual buildings maybe were a bit more detailed than they are, especially when considering the game's sequel, but I don't think it's negative at all. Finest Hour is a solid looking game on the Xbox. The audio in Finest Hour is excellent. The game is vividly loud in the best way possible. A war game really should capture that war is hell feeling, and here you get that. Explosions litter all around you and gunshots whiz by. The battlefield comes to life through its sound. It's bombastic and there's a good attention to detail when it comes to war. Screams and shootings coalesce into a nice sound design that feels like it had really solid attention paid to it, especially in tank scenes with the rickety noises of the tanks and the gunfire explosions. It's truly a well-done audio experience. And the voices add to it too, though I'd say no vocal performance is too great or notable, though AC/DC lead singer Brian Johnson makes an appearance here, which is odd but cool. Throw in all of the shouting from everyone and you continue the chaos. However, the music is far from chaotic. It is composed by Medal of Honor mainstay Michael Giacchino, whose beautiful horns and punchy drums really sell that military mood. I don't think it's as inspirational feeling as his work on Medal of Honor, but it's still fantastic here. When I think of military game scores, something in this realm is what I go for, like an old-time war documentary, and it all fits very well here. Call of Duty Finest Hour is a solid first-person shooter for the console. It looks good, sounds excellent, and has some fun level design. The sensitivity could have been improved as well as the AI, but these issues don't really ruin a good time. Looking back on it, I especially like the variety you get with the tank missions. I don't think it does anything amazing or anything better than some other great shooters on the console, but it's at least fun, which is all you can ask for sometimes. On my original Xbox ranking list, where I rank every Xbox game covered on the channel, it enters in at 58 out of the 108 games I've covered so far. It's better than The Sims in terms of being a memorable experience, and I'm only saying this for the console Sims. yet Sims busting out is far more replayable and a game I'd rather pick up and play. Call of Duty Finest Hour opened to mixed reviews with a 73 average according to Metacritic. IGN gave it a 7.3, saying that it took the PC game and made it bland. GameSpot gave it a 6.7 and said that it could have been better if the weapons were better. In the January 2005 edition of Official Xbox Magazine, it was given a 7 out of 10, liking the scale and audio, but hating the glitches and dumb AI. Even with mixed reviews though, the charm of Call of Duty was still ever present, and the game sold well, selling around 1.21 million copies worldwide, according to VG charts. Activision would quickly get started on the next console entry, which Sparks pitched, but Activision turned them down and bought out their contract so they didn't have to be a part of the 3-game deal anymore. And Sparks felt spited by this and sued Activision for trying to kill off the company. And this would lead to a countersuit where they claimed that Sparks was a fraud because the team was so inexperienced. It was a giant mess of lawsuits that feel like followed them for the rest of their life until they shut down in 2015, even though they still had releases under their belt after this one. And nowadays though, it seems that this entry is not one of the best remembered ones. Many claim that it's the worst Call of Duty on the original Xbox, though I did make a post about this game, and it seems that some people have good memories with it. On Backlogged, it holds a 2.9 average with 1.7 thousand plays. Some like it, but a good amount of people just find it to be mediocre. A mixed legacy for this first console Call of Duty, but maybe that means we will go up from here. But that does wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more retro Xbox content. If you're interested in retro content that's not Xbox related, check out Camp Extras. And leave a comment below with any memories of this game or Call of Duty in general. I would love to hear from you. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.